don't know if you guys know, but there's been this little Loki series that has been on. Another bullshit 6-episode run, whatever, for a season of Loki that I think has been significantly better than season 1. Because Loki is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I didn't love season 1. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love season 1. I think this season has been better in almost every single way, and I've been really enjoying it. And last night, the finale of Loki season 1 came out, and I do not feel like they completely stuck the landing. But let me start by telling you what I really loved about it. And then I'll tell you the part I kind of had a problem with. The part I loved about it was, and by the way, this episode came out prime time yesterday, so I may drop spoilers here, okay? The show dropped yesterday. So if you have not watched Loki and you're interested in it, then it's on you to avoid spoilers. I'm letting you know that right up front, okay? So I'm going to talk about a couple things that did happen in last night's episode. I'm giving you fair warning. Okay. So the thing that I desperately loved about the finale and really how it connects to the whole season of Loki is this entire season, you realize by the end, was about the character journey of Loki fulfilling his glorious purpose. I mean, that's really what it was. I hate it when we get into a TV show and the hero in episode 1 is still exactly the same as the way he or she was by the time you get to the end. There was no development. There was no journey for them. Loki completes his journey, his character rehabilitation, his redemption, if you will, through not just this season, but seasons 1 and 2. And by the time you get to those final shots of season 2 in last night's episode, you've seen now the completion of that redemption arc. Not just redemption, like right from the very first time we meet him in the first Thor movie to this point here, this character journey he's been on. And you realize this entire season hasn't been about much, but it has been about that. And we come to the completion of one of the best character arcs that the MCU's ever done. I still think Wanda, Scarlet Witch, might be the best character arc we've had in the MCU, but I think Loki is right in that discussion now with the way that thing worked. But by the end of it, Loki, who was initially looking for a throne to rule, he ends up taking a throne to sacrifice. He takes a throne in service of everybody else. He sacrifices himself in many ways for the betterment of everybody. There was a bit of that redemption arc when he's willing to sacrifice himself to try to save Thor. Like that was a big step forward in his redemption arc. But coming to the end of it and realizing my entire point of existence, I'm going to use to save everybody else. And that last shot when he's sitting in basically the Norse version of the tree. I never pronounced the name of the tree right, so I'm not even going to try to bother now. As he's sitting on that throne in his glorious purpose, I was very moved. And I thought it was, again, NB in the live chat just put it really, really well. I want to see if I can bring that up. Not that one. It's a lonely throne. It's a lonely throne that we see him sitting in at the end. And I remember watching that and just feeling moved. Again, I'm trying to come up with another word for moved, but I was emotionally moved by it. And Loki, re-cementing the fact that Loki is absolutely one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Okay. Now, with that being said, let me throw this out there and get it out of the way. Now, listen, I'm not like other YouTubers, okay? I'm not going to say the things that'll make me popular with my audience. I'm not going to say things to make people like me. I'm going to say what I honestly think, okay? Because that's why you guys come to my channel, to hear what I honestly think. So I'm not going to hide this from you. I'm going to tell you the part that I really had a problem with, okay? That did not ruin it, didn't ruin it. It just kept it from being like really supremely brilliant. So here's the thing. I love whodunit movies, Kris. I don't know if you're into whodunit movies. I love mystery whodunit movies. And what I really love is when you get to the end of the mystery whodunit, and then they make the reveal, and you're like, oh yeah. And you go back over the movie in your head. You know what I'm talking about? And you're like, oh yeah, that clue was there. And that clue was there. And like, maybe you didn't figure it out, but you realize, oh, I could have figured it out because all of it was there. What I hate is in these mystery movies is when they get to the end and they pull out a big piece, a big clue or a big piece of evidence that was never revealed to the audience. So they do this reveal and you realize there is no way the audience could have figured this out because the audience was not in possession of this big piece of evidence or this big clue. And you realize I just spent the last 2 hours or 2 months, if it was a TV show, trying to figure out who did it when it was pointless because I never would have because they hid all that stuff from me. Okay. The reason I say that, Kris, is because in the finale of Loki, as he decides he's going to go out and, do all this stuff, number one, never in the show was it even remotely given clues or whatever that this was something that was even a possibility that he could do. Number two, Loki all of a sudden out of nowhere exhibits a level of power that Loki has never had in the MCU. Loki got stabbed and died in Thor 2. At the beginning in Infinity War, he just had his neck squeezed and he died in Infinity War. He had Hulk pick him up and just slam him around and beat him up. Like, I love Loki, but he has never been shown to have the kind of power that he could, number one, walk out onto that bridge and not be torn to pieces like everybody else because one of his variants got torn into spaghetti when the nothing came. There's a little bit of, if you guys know that reference, I'm very proud of you. But when the nothing came, I mean, Sylvie she's a variant of Loki. She got split in all spaghetti. So nothing in the show nothing in the MCU had ever suggested that Loki had that kind of power. And that since when were the time streams literally physical things you could just hold on to and grab? And then comics. As the time streams are dying, right? He has this power that he can infuse life back into the time streams of all reality. Because at the end, he's sitting on his throne. He has to, because remember, he holds it. He instills life back into the timeline. As soon as he lets go of it, the timeline, whatever timeline he's holding starts to die again, right? And at the end, he's literally holding on to all the timelines, all the multiverse. And he is the power source himself. The guy who just got a little stabby in Thor 2 and dies, that guy, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is so powerful that his very being is breathing life into the entire multiverse. That's never been something that anything in the MCU, let alone this show, has ever remotely suggested that Loki comes anywhere close being able to do. And then all of a sudden at the end, I will be the source of life to all of reality. I will be God. And you can say, well, Loki is a god. That's a semantic that they use in the MCU. But I mean, so look, overall, I really enjoyed this season of Loki because the most important thing to me is the character journey and the character arc. And it was chef's kiss. I almost said French kiss. Chef's kiss. It was French kiss. It was one of the best.
Tom Hiddleston gave everybody tongue.
Yeah, it's all of it. But I mean, it is honestly one of the best character journeys the MCU has ever done. And so it really peeved me at the end, because that's a pet peeve of mine going all the way back to mystery movies, that they pull something out at the end out of their ass that has never been a part of the MCU. But that aside, it was a great, satisfying character arc for Loki. And maybe the end for Loki. I mean, maybe we see him pop up again in Secret Wars or not, but that might now be his place forever. He's the one holding the multiverse together. Maybe we'll meet him again once they end the multiverse, but I don't know. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Anyway, Kris, you had a chance to watch the finale. What did you think about it?
I really enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. I thought it was beautifully done. I thought it was such a good story for Loki. And, I'm going to disagree a little bit because I give comics a lot of leeway too on how they get from point A to point B. He had the time slipping. He had centuries of getting to know about how all these different things worked. But also, because this tied into the idea we got in Agent Loki back in 2015 of him becoming, major spoilers, y'all, the god of stories.
Right.
Because so much of this was all about how Loki couldn't rewrite his story, but God damn it, he was gonna. He was absolutely going to change how he was perceived, who he was. So, what is rewriting your own story, if not a trick? And to have the trickster god go from being that to the god of stories, I think is beautiful. And then to bring in so much Norse mythology, to have the world tree. Oh, I just thought it was really stunning. And also, it does a beautiful job setting us up for Secret War, because that's one of the things that led us into that updated Secret War comic storyline was Loki being this kind of timekeeper. So this also makes me really excited about how we're going to conclude the multiverse. It leads us to a really interesting place, potentially, with Loki literally pulling these strings, not pruning the branches anymore, but allowing them to flourish as needed. So I'm interested to see where they take things, and I'm really interested to see what they do with the Kang of it all, because that's still up in the air.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the whole purpose of the TVA is shifted by the end and what they're doing. Again, I don't disagree that what they did was poetic and beautiful. He's now at the center of the Norse tree. He's supplied. But again, my issue is never, ever, ever in the MCU did they ever remotely even imply that Loki has the power. Like, he's so, like, beyond Odin level. He is so powerful that he himself individually can literally feed life, not into all of our reality, but the entire multiverse, when everybody else who is walking into that platform gets torn into spaghetti, even his own variants. And so while I like what they did from a storytelling point of view, you should have been laying groundwork to imply that, I mean, I get it. He spent a century studying physics. Okay, but that's not giving him God power, like literal God power. This guy who they've always shown as the most frail of the gods, who can be easily beaten by a lot of different people, they just never once suggested or hint or remotely said, he literally is 10 times more powerful than Odin. A guy who has the power to breathe life into all of reality should have been able to take out Thanos like that. No pun intended with the snap. I love what they did. the poetic of it. He's now the god of the multiverse. He's the god of stories now. I love all that. I just wish they had earned it by actually laying foundation in the story that even remotely hinted that he had in him that kind of power, because a frost giant doesn't have that kind of power. And I wish they had given us some kind of inclination that they did, unless you saw it at some point in the story that I didn't, because sometimes I miss it.
Did you see how big his horns got? His horns got huge.
Horns
That's where you keep
big.
your power. That's where you keep your power.
And that wasn't even an innuendo. His just horns were so big that he was able to do that. Again, I'm talking about a very long-running pet peeve I have about endings of stories. But take that part out of it, Loki becomes even more enshrined as one of my favorite MCU. I still think Steve Rogers is my all-time favorite MCU character, but Thor has been number 2 and Loki's been number 3. I think Loki, as a result of season 2, is now my second favorite MCU character. I think I like him and find him more interesting now than even Thor. And the only thing I lament is that I wonder if this ending precludes us ever from having that Thor and Loki reunion, because he's got to be there on that throne. Maybe Secret Wars changed that up. Do you think we're going to see Loki and Thor come back together again at some point?
I think we do. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago on the show of how that's what Marvel wants for these two, is to reunite them and have them have that lovely brother bonding moment again, especially since Thor thinks he's lost all of his family. I think it'd be really lovely, and I think it'd be beautiful for him to see how far his brother has come.
I hope so. I would love to see that. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.